Welcome to another Straight Up Tuesday Tip. I'm 𝗤𝘃𝗀𝘀𝘁. With me, as always, is Mark Ainley. And with us is returning guest J Kott. Jared was on one of the original episodes, episode 11, Boss of the Southeast, and then also returned for our CHA property, our CHA roundtable that we had. But Jared is the owner of Marblestone Property Group. Jared has spent a lot of time building his personal portfolio and his business in C and D class neighborhoods. So, Jared, before we jump in here, we get a lot of listeners thinking like, hey, I want to get down there. I want to understand, how do I make this work? How do I optimize my properties if I'm going to be working in, call it working class or in C class areas? So we thought you were the right guy to have on the show. So if you can, we'll kick us off here. I think before we started rolling, there was basically three items we wanted to cover. And the first one was talking about documentation. So with that, why don't you jump on in here, talk about how can our listeners learn to best optimize properties in C class areas?
Sure. Thanks for having me on again, guys. I really appreciate being here. So I think the first thing that we want to cover on C and D class neighborhoods is you have to document everything that goes on in that property. When you're working in areas that are more high touch, which is where I focus my stuff, there's going to be more service calls. There's going to be more tenant issues. There could be neighbor issues. You want to be able to document that stuff to be able to protect, one, your asset, but two, also make sure the tenants are being heard. So we're big on documentation.
Yeah, you have a much higher touch down there. Now, we don't have a scientific statement on this, but it ends up being, it's 7 or 8 times. For every one time you touch your Lincoln Park tenant, you're going to be talking with your tenant down at South Shore 7 or 8 times. And there's heavier maintenance, like you said. And if you have CHA inspections, which more likely you're going to have come across CHA tenants eventually, you have those inspections, which has work that has to be done and yard work. And you get a lot of external factors that bring you to the property, like you said, neighbors and so forth.
All right. So we document. Then what we're going to look at is keep these units basic. Basic but clean is our model, right? So if you're going to we do unit turns, we want to sand those floors. Obviously, we want to paint where things need to be painted. Make them look sharp, but don't add additional items that could cost you work orders down the line. Some of those things, we rarely put in ceiling fans anymore. We don't do that. We don't put in dishwashers anymore. Microwaves out. We will put brand new stoves, brand new appliances, no problem. But what we found in our experience is the more things that can break in C and D class, the more things that will break. So we eliminate that.
I like that. Yeah, we actually took out ceiling fans when we saw them and put the 2 bulb button ones. And I'll tell you that I always get the 2 bulb one because that light bulb goes out and then all of a sudden it's dark. But and then they're calling you for work orders. So if you buy yourself some more time when you get a couple work orders, especially for some of the higher ceilings. But you hit it on the head. All you need is that fridge and stove. Jared, let me ask you a question. Washer and dryer, do you provide just a hookup or do you provide the actual appliance?
Just a hookup.
I love it.
Are tenants taking advantage of that? Like I've had properties down there where they just never brought the laundry. They never paid for the $1,000 to get the actual washer and dryer delivered.
I'll tell you where they do, Tom, is single family homes. We see it all the time. That's actually one of the top 3 things that people ask on the leasing side with single families is, hey, do you have a washer dryer hookup? And those tenants love that. They typically stay longer. Where it gets a little tricky is if you have, a small multi-unit, 2, 3, or 4 unit, somebody wants to bring their unpaid kind of coin washer dryer. Let's say they're tenant 1 on the first floor, but tenant 2 somehow finds access to the basement. And, sometimes things can get a little squirrely there. So be careful with that on the multis. We do not advertise it, but what we will do occasionally is put the coin ops in there with some directions on who to use, get along with your neighbors, things like that. Single families, though, it's slam dunk. Put them in.
Yeah, we could probably talk about coin op on a whole nother level, but we are big fans of not having to fix the appliance and letting them bring it. And if you have one thing we got into towards the end there is if you have a 2 flat or a 3 flat in the basement, if we were doing a gut rehab, we would just basically plumb the washer and dryer hookup for each unit and wire the gas and electric to the particular unit. So that's if you're doing a major, larger project on that side of things. Now, I just one more comment here because I know this is your show, your episode, Jared, but you see a lot of people that go into C and D class neighborhoods and they want to change things. They want to like provide this awesome housing experience and all that stuff. And I watch, myself included, and I think Tom, you might be able to speak for this. You kind of get beat down by what ends up happening to the place, whether it be providing a whole bunch more cabinets or providing a whole special type of flooring that's going to be scuffed up, or trying to just kind of going that extra mile where you really have good intentions, but ends up backfiring on you, and it ends up being, like you said, more stuff you have to fix, or more stuff that's going to break, or ultimately sometimes it ends up working against you because by the time the second tenant is done with whatever particular feature you're putting in, or the first tenant's done, the second tenant actually looks bad and it becomes something that works against you trying to lease it out again.
Yeah, I mean, we see that a lot. I made those same mistakes, like what I guess I would call over rehabbing and, decking out the kitchen, like you said, with multiple cabinets. But, at the end of the day, if you're going to do a rehab, like there's nothing wrong. Like I would say, I don't know, 90% of the stuff that I own down here, all as, mosaic tiles in the bathroom and really functional, nice stuff. But, what I don't want to do is add things that are going to break constantly on a little bit of a tougher sort of class of tenants that may just beat it down. But, at the same time, you pick some really nice colors for your walls, you sand the floors, windows, lighting, all operational. These are good functional units, but you just want to avoid the things that can consistently break over time.
I love it. We always use the term at 𝗤𝘃 Realty, clean and functional is what we try to provide. And one other thing I'll throw out there is a tip that we've screwed up majorly on is buying the too cheap a tile. When you get that 39-cent tile a square foot, man, that stuff breaks and you will pay for it in repairs or replacement not far after. So if you're going to do tile, which I would probably advise against right now in the vinyl plank world that we're living in, make sure you don't go for the 39 cents a square foot ones.
And if you do the 39 cents, make sure that you buy a few boxes extra of the same, because I was the guy that would always buy off the discount rack, and then we would just finish it and then the tile would break, and then a couple of years later we do a unit turn and be stuck having a weird piece of tile that we
your floors have leprosy. Your floors have leprosy. Yeah.
Right.
All right, what else we got? Number three. What's number three?
All right, so number three, this is real easy. It's security and lighting. It does not cost a lot of money to put some decent lights outside the property. Keep it lit. Security doors. Those are, tenants know that they're living in challenged areas. They want to feel safe, right? So for $150 or whatever it is for a security door, put that in, install that. And when you're ready to lease up these units, apartments or single families, make sure that everything is in working order. I mean, if you have blinds, make sure that they're all covered on the windows. If you have light bulbs, make sure that they're all operational. This is really common sense stuff. But over time, we've seen, we've lost lease ups this way. We've lost a little bit of, brand recognition by learning the hard way of not doing these things. So now we have, really solid and sound checklists to go through. But, keep it safe, keep it clean, keep it functional, and you'll keep your units filled. That's for sure.
Jerry, you mentioned blinds. Do you recommend bringing blinds to the table in these sort of properties?
Yeah, we do. It can be a little bit of a cost in the beginning, but we also have like expectations that we talk to about the tenants where we don't do security deposits, but we do let them know that we're going to bill on, annual inspections. If they're busted, we're just going to tag it to their ledger. So it's just a nicer touch when you walk in and there's blinds and there's screens. These are things that should be a custom regardless of what neighborhood you live in. These are basic needs that should be had in apartments and houses.
All right. Awesome. Mark, I'll give you multiple choice on this one. All right. Doesn't really have anything to do with what we were talking about, but it's one that we had in the back here. Do you know who was the first mayor of Chicago? I'll give you four options here. First mayor of Chicago. Was it A, William B. Ogden, B, Roswell B. Mason, C, Carter Harrison Sr., or D, Buckner Morris?
I would say Morris or Mason, I would think, because I just know the other guys are later. I'll go with Mason because it's my son's name.
Jared, you want to throw one out there?
I will also go with Mason.
Ogden.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah,
I thought he was
railroad
much
guy.
later. I could have sworn he was much later.
According
Maybe
to
I'm confusing him
Wikipedia.
with Stevenson.
What? So a little weird though. This guy came from New York, came to Chicago for like 2 years, was a mayor, and then got out. Not really a full-fledged Chicago dude.
Well, he has too major of a road to be
Yeah.
that insignificant, I guess.
Yeah, agreed. He should be a side street.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining in today. Thank you, Jared, from Awesome Show. Thank you, as always, Tom. Head to our website, zoning cheat sheet we have on there now. It's awesome. I think we've had over 100 people download that here in the last couple of weeks, probably more by this time this airs. But check it out. It's information that me being in this business and working in Chicago for 20 years, I learned something from it. So make sure you check that out, and we will talk to you soon.